everyone. Hello. I know it's been about a week since I made a video. I've been pretty busy getting interviews lined up. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys today, primarily on a subject that last week bore some significant controversy, but it also seems to be, something that's been indicative of something that's been going on for years now, and the erosion of dissenting symbols. So what I want to talk about today is stemming from the Chris Pratt Gadsden flag t-shirt that Yahoo and TMZ and the woke progressive Twitter sphere has been complaining about, is that Chris Pratt was seen walking around wearing a t-shirt with an American flag on it with the Gadsden symbol over it. And then the Gadsden flag is a coiled rattlesnake bearing its fangs with the words "Don't tread on me." And they're trying to attribute it to, far-right, nationalist, alt-right symbolism, that kind of bullshit. And I'll talk about the root of the Gadsden flag and why the progressive wing says, oh, but my racism and my whatever, my ethno-nationalists, these gun toters, these guys that are supporting, massacring children, I guess. The Gadsden flag was created during the Revolutionary War, and it was a symbol of, and it was seen as a symbol, don't tread on me. Basically, the British in the formative years of the American colonies taxed the fuck out of us, and they had no problem with that. They were our parent nation, and they figured, well, they should pay homage to us. We keep them protected from the natives and the French, but you guys got to pay you guys got to pay for what we're doing for you. And the American people at that point in time says, well, why were we getting taxed so horribly for your supposed protection, when you're not taxing your own citizens this badly? So the viper was a symbol as, don't step on me. Our bite is terrible. But it was a symbol to rally around. The left has been on, the progressive left, I should state, has been on at war with symbolism that would be part of dissenting opinions to them, and they want to try and get rid of them. Whether it's symbols of history, whether it's symbols of independence, whether it's symbols, it's not communism symbols. It isn't the fucking yellow star. It isn't the sickle and hammer. It isn't the black and red of the anarcho-communists. It isn't a picture of Che Guevara. They are independent symbols, and this does nothing but discredit the left and the Democrats in general. Most people see this as like, well, it's his freedom to express himself, his freedom to associate his views on the Constitution or whatever. Those are his guaranteed freedoms to be able to wear that, and to shame him for wearing that and demand an apology. You don't want to. If they don't want a goddamn apology, absolutely don't want an apology. Why? Because if you apologize, it's never good enough. But there's been a war on symbols for quite a while now. I was going to take an example from what I've seen on my social media that's been floating around. It's like, well, how can you? It had a picture of a white police officer arresting a lady, and the top of it was a really shitty meme, by the way, because the quality of the picture was terrible and it wasn't funny at all. Was that, do you support this skinhead police officer wearing an alt-right tattoo arresting a Jewish woman for protesting at the border? If not, if this doesn't bother you, you're mo racism kind of shit. But the tattoo depicted a Spartan helmet with, and I know I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Molenlab or Molenlabe, something like that. The phrasing starts out with an M, an omega sign, that kind of stuff. But it was the phrasing for it was, or the phrase itself means "come and take them," and it stems back, and the history behind it was when Xerxes was demanding that the Spartans kiss the ring, lay down their arms, give up, basically give us your weapons, give us your freedoms, that kind of stuff. King Leonidas responded with this, come and take them. It's a warrior symbol, and that's what a lot of the U.S. military, I see a lot of U.S. military wear it, and I'm pretty sure that this police officer is probably a former member of the service. But that only speaks to his constitutionalism, and that in essence is why I have T-shirts that say that on there. I see it as a response to government saying, well, we're going to be stripping away more and more of your gun rights. No. They're trying to associate it with, and by the way, this is true. There is a Greek ethno-nationalist organization that uses the same symbol, the same phrasing, in the context that they want Greek supremacy. Now, does that mean that there is an order of people here in the United States, a widespread, large group of people that want to promote Greek supremacy in the United States? Absolutely not. Like I said, it was done out of a warrior symbolism, and respect and standing up to those that would seek to oppress you. The symbols can mean lots and lots of different things, and how you associate those symbols is how you can interpret them. In the United States, we do not have a Greek ethno-supremic group trying to get Greek supremacy here in the United States. So that that symbol is probably out and right out. But they want to try and eliminate the history of the country. The statues of Robert E. Lee. They want to ban the Confederate flag. I mean, what was it? Amazon and eBay and all these other places have outright said you cannot try and sell, old Dukes of Hazzard toys because it has a Confederate flag on them. The Confederate flag, the Confederate battle flag. It wasn't a flag of the Confederacy. It was a flag that was used by the Confederate Army for their battle colors. And what they'll say is like, well, everything about that flag is racism because all people in the South were racist back then because they wanted to maintain slavery, and the X across the middle of the flag is X because you spell racism with an X, and the 13 is because there are 13 racists and they were big and prominent, and the red is for racism because racism and red both start with an R. That kind of stupid shit. They had no idea what the flag stood for. The cross across the flag was a symbol of the cross. The 13 stars was the symbol of the 13 original colonies, and the red was the blood of Christ. It was a very religious monotone with that particular flag. But they want to say, well, the South used it because they wanted to keep racism, and because of that symbol is bad all around. And there were plenty of people in the South that found racism and slavery morally abhorrent. A lot of people in the North, but a lot of people in the South. there was still a lot of discrimination going on in the North and in the South against former slaves, free blacks, whatnot, in the United States. So it wasn't the flag, and it wasn't the people. It was just the framing, how they look at it right now. Even the Emancipation Proclamation, people want to think that the North was morally correct, and I'll tell you what, the Emancipation Proclamation was a morally correct choice, but the fact of the matter is that it was not made under moral auspices. The Emancipation Proclamation was an economic attack, as opposed to an outright moral right. In the South during the Civil War, the South was a powerhouse in regards to production of raw goods, raw cotton, raw food, foodstuffs, that kind of stuff. They were a heavily agricultural nation, whereas the North was a lot more industrial. But those raw goods, the South was able to purchase weapons from the French, purchase ships, purchase and procure necessary items they would need for the continuing of the war. So the Emancipation Proclamation, at its early inception, was meant as more of a we gotta do something about their workforce, because they still have slaves. Well, let's just eliminate that workforce. They'd have to take people off of the battlefield. This will end the war quicker, and that was that. It wasn't done under the morally correct thing to do. It was more done on the field of economics. Robert E. Lee, the statues they had of him in Virginia, and they were tearing them down. And it's like, oh, but he was a racist. He was a white man during the Civil War. He fought for the South. He had to have been a racist, and it wasn't the case. Robert E. Lee owned no slaves. He had a very high moral function to him. And full disclosure, in the history on Robert E. Lee, when asked, he was like, well, should we give black people the vote immediately? It was said that he objected to it, but under the auspices that he wanted them to be educated and taught the moral, what the responsibility behind being able to vote. So, like I said, full disclosure, Robert E. Lee, he did say, all right, well, they don't need the vote yet. I want them to be educated and taught so that they would go in there with the full understanding of what their vote means. But I'm not saying whether or not it was a morally right decision to make and stuff like that. People should, even uneducated people should deserve the right to be able to vote in their own interests. And it was clearly a different time in the United States. But everything about it is they want to get rid of the symbolism behind the dissenting opinions. There are plenty of African Americans and black people in the South that boast a symbol, and they don't see it as a racist symbol. They see it as a heritage, Southern heritage, and it doesn't matter if you're white or black or Hispanic. If you're from the South, you're from the South, and that's part of a Southern heritage thing. But dissenting symbolism is what the progressive wing wants to try and get rid of. If you don't stand for identity politics, you don't stand for what the progressive wing wants, which is socialism kind of shit. So those, like I said, the Maoist star, the sickle and hammer, the old man gives me that. So Karl Marx, Che Guevara, any of those other symbols, the white and black, or the white and black, the red and black symbol of Antifa, the anarcho-communists. If you can't rally behind those symbols, you're not allowed to rally behind anything else because of more racism and whatnot. And I'll take another example here that they tried to disparage and were pretty successful with, was the whole Kekistan thing. For anybody that wasn't in the know about Kekistan was basically a satirical parody of identity politics, meant to make a mockery of identity politics. You know, anybody could be Kekistani, you could be black, white, anything like that. All you had to do was, you know, not believe in any of their bullshit that they came out with the identity politics. Well, you could say, well, your identity politics is oppressing my freedoms as a Kekistani kind of stuff. And even then, with the Kekistani flag, they did it as the poll boards on 4chan made it so that it would be a mockery of the moral sensibilities of these progressive lefties. Basically, what they did was they took an old Nazi Kriegsmarine flag. A Kriegsmarine was a naval battle flag, and they took out the red. You know, that would be the symbol of socialism for the National Socialists, and they replaced it with the green of Pepe. And they took out the swastika and replaced it with a four direction word Kek, and took out the Iron Cross or the Reichsadler that they would have in the corner of the flag, and replaced that with the 4chan symbol. And they started touting it around, and you start seeing it at Berkeley during the battles at Berkeley, the Portland rallies, the rallies in Texas, and you know, a lot of people were seeing this flag and it was like, it's made of a Nazi flag. It has to be white nationalist. And it wasn't white nationalist at all. What it was just to get your moral sensibilities all in an uproar. When the Kekistani flag means nothing. It means we can do what we want. We can make what we want, and there's nothing you can do about it. But even more so to where they said they got it on the Southern Poverty Law Center to be able to say that this is a symbol of trolls and white nationalists. They're trying to eliminate any symbols that anybody could rally under, and in essence, it's an attack on the First Amendment. So, the First Amendment has a lot of little points to it. You have the freedom of speech, which means you should be able to say what you want as long as it's not an incitement to violence. You can say what you want. You can have any opinion you want. You have the freedom of the press, which means that you have the press are free to report the news, the truth, you know, as they without worries of being censored. You have the freedom of religion, which means you can basically worship any god or no god if you want to. You shouldn't be judged by your religion, what you believe in. You can be a pagan. You can believe in the Norse gods. You can believe in no god at all. You can believe in the Christian God, Hindu God, Allah, any of those gods, and without fear of reprisal in the United States. And then you also have the freedom to peaceably assemble. Now, a thing with peaceable assembly is that people tend to rally under symbols. You know, those symbols are an easily recognized thing within their respective groups to be able to say, I know these people hold similar views to me. I want to be able to associate with them. That symbol is a rallying cry. And the left see it as something as a dissenting viewpoint, a dissenting voice in what should be their echo chamber of America. So they have to try and get rid of it. So they bring out all these outrage mobs, especially the ones that are going on with Chris Pratt, saying, "Well, don't you find it morally abhorrent to be wearing the Gadsden flag, since there are ethno-nationalists that bring that to rallies? What about the violent communists that wear black and red? Should we be critical of people that wear black shirts or red shirts?" Trying to get rid of rallying symbols is only going to drive the more sensible people away from you. There are a lot of people that like Chris Pratt, and the way that they're seeing these people are going insane over it. This only reflects poorly on anybody that believes themselves to be on the left side of politics. Your left is now, where the Democrats were in 20 years ago, is now where we find what people are calling, the centrists. The centrists. The centrist right and left is where it's being pulled to. The conservatives are actually making a lot more sense now. They don't want to try and get rid of your symbols. You can raise your sickle and hammer flag all you want. All that we're going to be able to do is be able to identify that you are absolutely insane. And these symbols were like, well, this is a symbol of racism and oppression, and people get murdered on this. You know what? You want to know about these communist symbols? The sickle and hammer, the Chinese Maoist star, Che Guevara's, and anything like that. Those are symbols that support the death of more people in the 20th century than probably any other thing outside of cancer. You could attribute over 100 million deaths in the 20th century to communist symbols. What is it? Lenin took care of 4 million of his own. Stalin is coming in a close second to Mao with 26. Mao Zedong murdered almost 70 million of his own people, and that's not including the 2 million from Ho Chi Minh. The estimated 3 million dying under the Kim regime. The hundreds of thousands of deaths in Cuba. It's like your symbolism is a symbol of outright murder, and nobody calls them on this shit. Oh, that's not real communism. Well, you're wearing it like the same way they are, and they think that going socialist, going this way, going the way of socialism and communism is going to be good. No, it's not. Every time it's been entered in, there has been nothing but death. Famine, murder, separation of families. You want to talk about separation of families? Fathers and mothers were stripped from their children in the middle of the night because they disagreed with the government in the communist nations. But this is an attempt at a war on symbolism, plain and simple. I'm not looking past. I'm looking straight past this. Chris Pratt, go ahead, wear whatever you want. You should not have to apologize or make a statement for anything that you believe. You want to wear the Gadsden flag, you go ahead and wear that Gadsden flag. I wear that on my my left shoulder every goddamn day, and it's not because of the t-shirt, it's because it's the uniform. But you go ahead and wear that. You shouldn't have to apologize for this. And if you apologize for it, just know that they will never accept your apology. But I'm going to get off of here. Thank you for listening to me. I know it was a long rant and I went all over the place. But yeah, this war on symbolism has to stop. All right. Y'all have a good one. I'll probably come out with another video here in a little bit. There's quite a bit more I want to talk about. Thank you for watching. Drop a comment if you want. Thank you.